What's going on, Internet? Brand new year, brand new YouTube channel, and what better way to start off than the Gundam Tertium? Let's get into it. Alright, welcome everyone. My name is HG Gunpla. This is my new YouTube channel. It's something I've been wanting to get off the ground for a while now. I think I finally got everything I need, so I'm making my first video here. It's a new year, new YouTube channel. I'm planning to cover several things on this channel. Of course, reviews would be the main thing, plus some custom works. I'm wanting to get into customization in a big way. I'm gonna start off small, but work my way up into real big customization projects, and I want y'all to take that journey with me, so it's gonna be real fun. But back to the Gunpla at hand. Like I said, this is Gundam Tertium. Build Divers Re-Rise. If you haven't watched Re-Rise yet, it's free on YouTube. I encourage you to. Of course, this is Sid's mobile suit from primarily the second half of Re-Rise. Again, give the show a watch, but let's go ahead and get this baby spinning. And as we get the full 360 view here, of course, it goes without saying that this suit looks awesome. I've never had too much exposure to the Mark III and its design. It's never been one I've been too keen on, but the more I look at this, the more I'm liking the overall aesthetic. Of course, the Mark III is what Tertium here is based on. You know, it's a play on the original Mark III name. But yeah, this whole spiky, very sharp line aesthetic here. Of course, there's a lot of Mark III. A lot of its design elements are still in here. But it just takes everything to the next level. This is a really great redesign. Let's see if the kit itself can hold up to the awesomeness of this redesign. So I think first thing we're going to do is go over the manual and see what it says and what it has to offer. So yeah, let's take a look at that. As we look at the front here, obviously you got that great looking box art. Box art these days looking better and better all the time. And of course we flip around to the back, we see a lot of info about the mobile suit, as well as upcoming plans for it. And of course at this point most of those sets have released, so we're going to go ahead and go to the inside. As we look inside here, of course, the first thing we'll be looking at is the list of runners. There's 9 main runners in total. Of course, we're going to have some X's on there for some spare parts that came from the standard Mark III kit, which of course isn't out yet. It's been announced as a P-Bandai, unfortunately, but it has been announced. It is coming out. And of course, you've also got your standard beam sabers, your polycaps, and your sticker sheet. And it only has 3 stickers, just camera stickers, no color correcting. Of course, that is awesome to see that there's no color correcting stickers here at all. Everything on the mobile suit, at least from what I can tell, is color accurate. Nothing's missing, so that's really awesome. And overall, like I said, I just really like this design. I think it really speaks to me. It's really got that Build Divers flair, but at the same time not being too over the top. It's really good. It works for me. But let's go ahead and look at the accessories now. Obviously this is just the base Gundam on its own, but it does have some accessories, of course. So let's go ahead and take a look at those right now. Of course, we've got the Mark III's beam rifles here, both beam rifles, and they look awesome. And let's go ahead and get those put in the hands here and see what those look like held in the mobile suit's hands. And as we got these in the hands now, obviously they look awesome. The suit's going to have no problem holding these up. The joints are strong enough, especially there in the wrist. It's very strong. It's going to hold it up no problem, both of them. The hands are, of course, the sandwich style. Take the backs off and slap the rifle in and then put the backs back on. But it holds it up no problem, and it looks good doing it. So let's go ahead and look at these a little more closely and take a look at the detail on these. First off with the camera stickers. If you look closely, you'll see the one here in the right hand. It does not have a camera sticker, unfortunately, but the one here on the left does, a really prominent one. And I'm pretty sure the reason for the right one not having a sticker is probably just because the recessed area is just too small for that. Of course, the left-hand one is just smacked right on the top there, so it's got plenty of space for a sticker. And if you look closely on both rifles, you'll see on the right side of each there's an H-peg for on the back storage. There are a couple holes in the back skirt for rifle storage, so let's go ahead and get these out of the hands and put these on the back so we can take a look at that. And now that I got these out of the hands, you can see there's 2 holes there on the back skirt. It's for plugging in these little H pegs there you see on the side. So let's go ahead and start with the right hole, get this plugged in here. And as you can see, it goes in very easily, very smoothly, holds on very secure, not going to fall out on you there. But if I try to put it in the left hole, you notice that it's just not going in. It kind of goes in, but it doesn't hold on. Then if you can try to put it on upside down, it's still not working. It seems to be the shape of the rifles just isn't allowing for the left hole, which makes me wonder why it's there. It's probably a holdover, but it just doesn't work. Same thing goes for the other rifle. You try to stick it in the left, it's just not working, but you put it in the right, boom, it holds in just fine, no problem at all, very secure. But it's just not going to go in that left hole. It just goes in the right, which probably makes more sense. But as you also see, when you put it in the right hole, it covers up both holes. So if you try to put it in up like this, like straight up and down, just you can use both holes, it doesn't work. The rifles, they're too long, they don't fit up and down there. The shape of the mobile suit doesn't allow for that. So you're only really able to do one rifle stuck on the back because you have to do it horizontally. So that's kind of limiting. And it's kind of an odd choice, but what are you going to do? Now we're going to take a look at our other accessories, namely the beam sabers, and we're going to start off with the handles here. They're very simple handles, not a lot of flash, very basic. Same thing goes for the beam sabers. Very basic, like most beam sabers, not much to see here. They go in the handles just as basically, just pop right in and it looks like your standard beam saber. Except there's one small little difference here. Yep, unfortunately, the saber effects do not fit perfectly into the handles. They're very loose. If you turn it upside down, they immediately fall out. But so long as you have them upright, no more than 90 degrees down, they do look alright. They look like your pretty standard beam sabers. So let's go ahead and get these into the hands here and see how they look. Put the beam saber back in there, and let's stick it in the hand. And yeah, looks like a pretty standard beam saber. Not much to see here, not anything we haven't seen before. But of course, like most mobile suits, we do have 2 beam sabers in here, 2 effects with similar handles. In fact, the handles are exactly the same, equally as loose, but of course looking equally as good in the hands. Okay, now we got it up on an action base. I'm sure you all were tired of seeing my terrible standing poses there, so I want to go ahead and get this in a more dynamic aerial pose. This suit looks awesome up in the air. It kind of is where it's meant to be in a way. It does come with an action base standard 3mm peg hole there in the bottoms for you to put any action base you want. Obviously this is a more simple action base, but it works. It gets it up in the air and allows you to do more with the legs and the posing. I definitely don't claim to be an expert in Gunpla posing. I'm hoping to get better. I like to think I'm okay. But it's my first video, so hopefully things do improve over time. But anyways, this gives us a chance to really get a good look at the aesthetics of this kit, get a closer look up inside the joints and the armor, and get a real feel for the detail or lack thereof. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the finer points of the aesthetics here. If you look up in under some of these parts, you can see kind of some of the nooks and crannies and a few of the crevices. You know, if you look way back in the back underneath there, kind of look in all the joints, you can see that that does have some hollow parts here and there, some parts that aren't as filled in, little cut corners. And of course we've got our fair share of seam lines too, like up here on the upper arm, as well as the thighs down here. These have very noticeable ones, you're not going to miss those. And as well as on the forearms as well. And of course you got your usual ones like on the side of the torso and on the shoulders. But the most notable ones are of course upper legs and all along the arms there. And so those are going to be kind of a pain, especially if you're wanting to paint this kit. You have to seal those up. It's going to take some time, but it is doable. Now, of course, when it comes to nub marks, it's got the usual nub marks on there, which you would expect from a kit like this, a Build Divers HG kit. I try to clean up my nub marks as best I can to try to give you a representation of what I think you want to see, which is a cleaned up kit. It's also why I do the panel lining. I just want to make sure I give you something that I think you're wanting to see, and that includes a lot of nub mark cleanup. I use the usual setup, you know, nip, knife, file, sandpaper. It kind of depends on the type of plastic I'm messing with. but I do try to clean up my nub marks as best I can, as I did with this kit, and there's really not much to see here. Most of what's left is pretty well hidden, which is what I like. Obviously there are going to be some you can see, like on the back of the foot there, and of course on some of these darker plastics, like up here in the torso where the pieces sandwiches together. Obviously some of those nub marks or in dark areas are just not going to go away, especially on the really darker plastics. It's not going to show up on the whites and the lighter plastics too much, obviously, but there's only so much you can do about it, about the discoloration. Obviously if you're not going to paint, it is what it is. And of course now is the favorite part of the review, the articulation. So let's get into it. So of course we're going to start with the head, the down, and back up. Unfortunately there's a lot of collar going on, so there's not going to be a whole lot to do. Side to side there isn't too much. It's kind of blocked left to right, but you can, if you angle it right, get your 180-degree spin side to side there, which is really all you really need. There is a little bit of back and forth, so got that polycap joint, but not much else going on there. Torso is pretty limited, not much forward and back and side to side. You got pretty good spins. It will spin all the way around, but you are pretty limited in terms of crunches. Arms are very unique to this kit in that they're a very unique design and also not a very great design. They articulate at several points, like right here below the elbow and above the elbow, but it's kind of hard to know which one you're going to be turning. And of course, like I said before, these wrist joints are very tight. It's probably the tightest joint on this kit, which means your weapons aren't going to droop, which is awesome, but it's very, very hard to turn that wrist. And then you've got the shoulder armor here, which moves independently of the rest of the arm. And of course you've got the usual polycap joint there in the torso, which moves to the front, as you can see, and moves to a decent amount to the front. Gets you probably everything you'd need, and a little out to the back it allows. As far as spins, it goes all the way around, about what you'd expect. No reason why it wouldn't. But as far as raising the arm up, though, it really only raises it to about parallel with the ground, and that is pushing everything to its max, getting everything up as high as it'll go. You go any higher than that, it's gonna come out of the socket, believe me. But yeah, like that. It really doesn't take much. This is one of the loose joints on this kit. The arm pops out a lot. If you have this kit or the Celtsam, which of course came before this and is based on the same design, you know how easily these arms pop out. And of course, the elbow isn't anything to be too excited about either. It's a single joint, so you're only going to get 90 degrees, which kind of sucks, but it's good enough. And as we go to the back here, obviously got the backpack here with the triple thruster bell, which is an awesome design. The thruster bells will move a little bit. They're really not supposed to. They're really not supposed to be articulated, but they are kind of a little loose. I have knocked these out before. You have to be careful with these. If you grab it the wrong way, you might push one out, and you have to go find it. Of course, the butt flap is huge. It's gigantic, which can be a problem. The front skirts can be a little hindered, as well as the side skirts here. Both can only go up so far, and you really can't turn the side skirts because of how bulky they are and the fact that they are curved here. They got armor here in the back, which prevents you from lifting these up out of the way, really. The butt flap does not move at all. It is stationary. You're not going to be able to get that out of your way, unfortunately. And of course, we've got the legs here. The legs are decent enough. You bring it up to raise it up here, you can just barely get it to parallel with the ground. Of course, you got a lot of armor clashing, getting in the way. If you kind of twist it, you can get it up there high enough. That's probably the best direction you're going to get out of this, though. You got some spins, not a full 360, but enough in terms of your hip spins. And then as well as your knee bends, it's really only about 90 degrees. It is double jointed, but with the way the armor is laid out and given how much there is, especially on the lower leg, it only lets you bend to just barely past 90 degrees. It's really just 90 degrees. Plus, the strength of the knee joint isn't all that strong anyways. It's you know, it's sharing a lot of similarities with the elbow joint here, just a 90-degree bend. And so that's really just about as best as you're going to get out of this. Unfortunately, articulation is not this suit's strongest strength. It's definitely its looks. It can't do the splits. If you try, it's going to be blocked by the armor. Same thing goes for the foot here. It's also blocked. It moves very well forward, but as far as back, it really just can't, and side to side is almost pretty much non-existent. And of course you have to be careful, the armor will catch on each other there. But of course this is meant to move because you've got this other cannon up in here, which is a cool feature. Of course, I don't know if anybody's going to display it with the shins up like that, but to each their own. So yeah, so not really anything to write home about in terms of articulation, but overall, can't complain too much. It does what it needs to do. It gets you where it needs to go. It's about as good as you can expect it to be for a build series suit. It's not going to be anything amazing, unfortunately, but it'll do well enough. And of course, you have to make sure that you've got it standing right. Of course, I'm rushing through this part. I don't have it in the correct standing pose. It's kind of wobbly there. You can get it flat-footed with it like that, don't worry. Alright, now that we have everything laid out here and around the mobile suit, we can get a good look at all of the accessories. Of course, we got the 2 rifles we talked about, the 2 beam sabers, which are notoriously loose, but look okay, and of course we've got these extra set of hands here. Now, you may think that these are, naturally, for the mobile suit here, for one of the accessories. I mean, they do come with the suit. This is the first time this model has been released, but I'll show you here. These aren't really for anything. As you can see, they've got pegs in here, if I can get this to focus. You got little pegs in here, so you would think that they go with something like the beam sabers here, because the beam sabers also have little peg holes. If you, this thing will focus and show you, but you can see little holes in there, little peg holes. So you would think maybe they go in here. They don't exactly fit the shape of the beam sabers, but maybe they're meant to go with them. Except that they're not. Look how loose that is. The holes in the handles are way bigger than the actual pegs in the hand. These aren't meant for this. They just fall out. So the only thing I can assume is that these are actually for the Mark III itself. Like there's some accessory that comes in the Mark III that is what this is for. Either that, or maybe this is for the add-on sets like the Seltsam arms. Maybe this is for holding the gigantic lance mace. Maybe that's what it's for, because although I think that the normal holding hands here will hold it just fine, just like it does everything else, but I could be wrong. They do seem to work very well. Like I said, they don't have a problem holding anything. So I'm kind of wondering what these extra hands are for, if they're for anything or if they're holdovers. I don't remember them being X'd off in the manual, but maybe they are just for the Mark III. But I suppose we will find out eventually. But there's also something else I want to show you with the beam sabers here. Of course, we stick the handle in the hand here. Obviously, it slides in, no problem. You don't have to take the hand apart. It just goes right in. But it's very loose in the hand. If you got it setting like this, where it's kind of holding the saber at kind of 90-degree angle, it's fine. But if you hold it straight up like so, and you got the handle going straight up and down, and if you wiggle it around enough, it falls straight through. Now it's holding it pretty much half by the beam saber effect part. It's just not strong enough, or not strong enough. This handle isn't big enough. It's too small, just barely, for it to slide in and out of the hand like that. Sure, it allows you to take it in and out just fine, but it also means that if you've got it posed in the wrong angle, it'll slide straight through the hand. Now, we do also have some extra features here on the rifles as well. If I pick this one up here, of course, it's got the removable E-cap here, just a little piece. It pulls straight out of there. Not all that hard to do. Just clicks back in there. Very simple, very easy. The other rifle does have one as well, except it's up inside here. It's stuck up inside in between here, and there's really no good way to get it out, so I'm not even going to bother. It's up in there. It can come back out, and you can put another one in, but I don't know really why you'd want to. But you can, obviously, it's a separate piece. You can paint it separately if you wanted it to. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the accessories here. There's really not much else to talk about. really about these accessories. Now, in terms of unofficial accessories, of course, the Celtium kit came first before this, so naturally we do have some extra leftover parts from the Celtium kit. Like I said, some of the leftovers from the Mark III, but we do have these, some of which were from the Celtium. So we got some extra E-caps here you can use if you want. You got a couple of little extra small parts, nothing really much, some head pieces, including some of the pieces to help make the extra eyes, because you know the Celtium has like the 6 eyes going on. You do have some extra parts from that whole head setup, but really there's not a whole lot left over here, just a few little odds and ends, but they're there if you want them to help maybe make a custom or something. And just for some size comparison here, I went ahead and brought out another nifty little kit, the GBN base Gundam here. This Gundam obviously is roughly about the same size as the ARC-72. It's what it's based on, so it's about standard Gundam height. So we can give the Tertium a little bit of sense of scale here and about where it measures up. Obviously it's about standard height as well, a little bit taller, but it is about what you'd expect size-wise from your standard Gundam. This GBN base Gundam is a great little kit. It's a kit we'll be looking at more later. If it looks a little rough around the edges, it's actually, I'll let you into the know now, it was actually the first Gunpla kit I ever bought and built. So I actually haven't been in the hobby too long. It's actually been a couple years now that I've been doing this, but I've been really into it, and I really enjoy it. I didn't know anything about this before, but it has spoken to me in a big way, and so now I'm really enjoying it and really getting into it, and I think I've come a long way from where I was with the base Gundam there to where I am now. But yeah, keep your eye out for the base Gundam review coming sometime later on. And ladies and gents, that brings us to the end of our review. Now's the time we're going to tally everything up for a final score. I do plan on using a scoring system for my videos, one that I made up myself with its own naming conventions and my own way of scoring. I won't go into details, but I do have my own scoring system, and it essentially goes like this. It's essentially a 5-star rating system. I know, not very unique, but you know, it works, so we're gonna go with it. And it goes from 1 star to 5 stars, 5 stars obviously being the best, and everything's ranked in subcategories, and then that all is tallied up for an average score that gives the overall kit its final score. So 1 star is what I call a crushing defeat. That means that it's just not measuring up, and you should probably not bother with it unless it's designed that you really, really like and want to have. A 2 star is called a tactical retreat. It is a ranking that really means that it's not really up to par, but there are some redeeming aspects about it, so I wouldn't totally write it off. A 3 star is what I call a victorious kit. It means that it is baseline, you know, not awesome, but not awful either. It's middle of the road, what you'd usually tend to expect from most Gunpla. And then, of course, a 4 star is a decisive victory. Decisive victory means that it's above the average. It's really good. It's not perfect in every way, but there's really not much to complain about with a kit of a 4-star rating. And of course, we have our 5 star, which is what I'm calling a resounding victory. It is just all across the board awesome, perfect. You really can't find any fault with it. You can't get really any better than a resounding victory. So that's my rating system. Might sound a little goofy, but that's what I'm going to go for. In the end, it's really just a 5-star rating system. And of course, we're going to pop that up on the screen so for everybody to see. And what I'm giving this kit is, you might have probably already guessed from my description there, it is a 3-star. This is a victorious kit. It does nothing horrible, doesn't do anything amazing. It's middle of the road, but it definitely gives you everything you need. It gives you the accessories you need. In fact, it's a little unique in terms of accessories. It gives you 2 rifles, 2 beam sabers, usual fare, but no shield. It's very much an attack use type mobile suit, very much made for offense, speed, firepower, very cool. Obviously, this isn't what you'd usually see in most normal Gundam types, where they tend to be all-rounders, you know, offense, defense, and mobility and the like. His focus is primarily on offense mobility, and so that's really cool. But the kit itself, it's very middle of the road, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just about average, but it's still definitely worth picking up. So I'd encourage you to do so. It's a really nice kit. But yeah, that's my review of the Gundam Tertium. If you guys like this review, if you'd like me to do more, if you'd like to see more, go ahead and subscribe, give it a like, leave a comment, tell me what you liked about the review, what you didn't like. I'm planning to make more of these, a lot more of these. I'm putting together a schedule for how I'm going to release reviews. I'm wanting to do like one a week. That's the goal. I do have a regular job. I've got a wife. I've got other obligations, so I can't promise anything, but I'm hoping to do regular releases with these. And yeah, we're just going to see how it goes. But hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. The links are up there at the top and down in the description. But yeah, I'll see y'all later.